Hello, hello, everyone. I am Erebus, and once again I am joined today by PKJ Gaming and MRK Music. Today we are going to be talking about NPCs and then how to run, humanoid or NPC, quick groups like bandits or thieves guilds or things of that sort. So yeah. Really quick.
Hello, everybody.
Really quick, why don't you two explain where they can find you on social media?
You go, Jake.
Yeah, you can find me at PKJ Gaming. My screen name is that one guy who writes geeky stuff. Yeah.
Alrighty.
Cool. So I'm on Twitter at Mark Hansen Creates. But the best way to get to me actually is at theheroestale.com or ataleofheroes.com.
Alrighty. Speaking of that, all three of us are co-creators of the game The Hero's Tale, a story-driven role-playing game, tabletop role-playing game. Yeah. So, like I said, today we're going to be talking about how to make NPCs, how to make them fun and unique. Basically, just how to not have them be boring. And there's two things I wanted to talk about with this.
You're forgetting something, Brennan. Creature feature.
That's right. I was kind of planning on doing the creature feature later. Because the creature feature kind of ties in with this. Because our creature feature today is running bandits and things like that. So I wanted to talk about creating
people as
NPC.
monsters.
Yeah. I wanted to talk about creating NPCs and then how to do that for bandits and stuff like that.
Okay.
You are right, though. Normally we do our creature feature first.
Okay. Sorry.
Yep. No, you're all good. So, with that, let's get into creating the NPCs. There are two types of, or two things that I want to touch on really quick with that. And that is if you're doing them with voices or if you're not doing them with voices. Because you can still create a fun, incredibly interesting NPC without doing a voice. You do get some things out of, creating Hoblin the Goblin, or Boblin the Goblin, excuse me, where you're talking like this and you're doing a wacky voice,
I remember Baldwin the Goblin.
Yeah, which is a fun NPC, but and you get that kind of knee-jerk
Or-
fun reaction from talking like that.
Or Critical Role's Pumat Soul.
His voice is very key.
Yeah.
But then you can also do things that are just how you talk, such as I have an NPC in my current campaign named Aubrey, and she is a very quirky, very fast-talking seller of peculiar objects, portrayer of peculiar objects.
Yes.
And one of which was like a green thing of, or was it black? A vial of liquid, I can't remember which.
Green.
I think it was green, yeah. And I do have this, and she was very, very upfront, and when the party said no to buying it, she would go, "Are you sure? Are you sure? Are you sure?" And it's become kind of a running gag in our group, is if someone said no to doing something, then everyone would say, "Are you sure?
Are you sure?"
And that doesn't require a voice to do that kind of like quirky interaction. But
It's cool to think also, by the way, in Aubrey's case, that as a character, she is not critical to the adventure.
No.
She's not like well, at least I assume she's not like one of the evil guys we have to defeat. She's just a quirky little piece of comic relief that we get.
Wildshire.
Yeah, that we get in the town of Wildshire.
Yeah, she's just a shopkeeper, and that is an interesting part of it. Is that
and yet she's still recurring, but her recurrence is not critical to the storyline just
right.
yet. And the reason I mention that is that's an important factor to remember in NPCs, is that not everyone has to be a deep thread in the storyline.
So for creating NPCs, the first thing I like to look at is the NPC's appearance. Some people have very unique things about them. Other people look very normal. Not normal. Normal's not the right word.
Typical,
average, yeah. But there will be some characters that you want to add unique, broken nose from when they were younger that's slightly off kilter, a pronounced scar, things of that sort. But you have to. You don't want that to be every NPC, because if every NPC is unique in that way, then no NPCs are unique in that way.
Right.
Every NPC should have unique features, but not necessarily all how they look. And their outfit can be just as unique as they are. So if you've used, a scar a lot, or a birthmark or tattoo, maybe swap it up and start using different kind of clothes, very flamboyant clothes or something like that. Things of that sort.
Yeah. Also using different ethnicities can be a way to vary things.
Yeah.
I'm thinking of that boat captain that was a dragonborn that played into our one character's paranoia of dragons.
Yeah. That was a ton of fun to say, all right, you guys are now getting on a boat with a dragonborn, and one of you are terrified of dragons. So it was an interesting little thing. And then playing that character in the way that he just was completely oblivious to how the other guy was treating him, playing that dragonborn. It was just so much fun. And I imagine
that was all improvised on your part as the game master.
Playing him out like that was.
Dragons.
So I don't personally think that unless you're planning for combat, you need to have fully fleshed out stats for monsters, or not for monsters, for NPCs. But I do think you should list what their high abilities are and what their low abilities are. In the hero's tale, we have strength, dexterity, fortitude, awareness, and social.
Right.
And picking one or two of those to be high abilities, and then basing the character off of that is a good way to come up with a character. Like someone that is very strong might be a bit brawnier and more muscly and things of that sort.
Right.
Someone that is very intelligent or has a high awareness might use much bigger words and might talk in a much more
formal,
a much more formal
mannerism. I might be a little nerdist, but they might also have like glasses.
Yeah, some might have glasses, some might not.
And they might be more studious, have books and that kind of thing. I'm thinking of the time in Mistborn when Vin first meets Ellen. He's just sitting in the corner at the ball reading a book, you know.
But then
but to be fair, it's not like math books. It's like political philosophy.
Right. So that can even go into the development of the character. Now, of course, they later turn into main characters, but they don't necessarily have to.
And then doing the same thing with a low ability score or attribute. You know, if someone has a low fortitude, or in D&D terms, a constitution, you know, they might be pale, sickly. Someone that is low in dexterity might be very clumsy and fumbling. You know, dropping several of their magic items on the ground, sending lasers flying off. I've never done that before. Stuff like that. That was one of my favorite. I played a shopkeeper as an NPC that just kept accidentally dropping everything. Super fun.
I remember that one. And it's funny because, again, that character did not have an impact on the role of, or on the flow of the story, but it had a huge impact on the stuff we remembered. And so often, shopping and negotiating prices and things, you know, you go into a town and say, "Oh, no, let's go shopping. Let's buy some magic items, or let's buy some armor or something." You know, too often that's just a numbers game. Where you just mark off your gold points, gold pieces, and write down, okay, now I have this fancy sword. And I guess that's okay because it doesn't really impact the storyline all that much. But there are moments like that that can be played.
Yeah.
Well, in my set, I play every Saturday night, right? And we're playing in Everwild. Some preliminary testing in Everwild, some more testing and playing in Everwild, which is a setting I'm making.
Right.
For those of you that don't know, for Hero's Tale, version 2. But I recently made not a shopkeeper, but a tavern, a bartender, tavern owner, who is in a wheelchair.
Yeah.
That's a clever quirk to put on that's not very common.
He is a squirrel, so he's a tinkerer. Well, not to say that because you're a squirrel, you're always a tinkerer.
But it's a similar thing to like halflings, where they have a lot of halfling or gnome, something like that. One of those two.
Yeah.
I think it's gnomes, gnome tinker.
Yeah, it's a well-known trope.
That actually does bring me to a point. You mentioned that he owns a tavern. I found that it's a lot of fun to, if they are running a business, to model the business based off of how they act. Aubrey, going back to her, she was that very chaotic kind of, you know, are you sure you don't want this? And then offering the party something else when they said no. Do you want this? Do you want this? Would you like to buy this? Are you sure? And
all things which had nothing to do with
what they actually wanted to buy.
Right. Very kind of random and spontaneous.
And
It's
her shop
like
was the
I'll be-
same way.
Yeah.
There was nothing orderly about her shop. All of the items were randomly displayed without price tags across all of the shelves, and for every item that the party wanted, they had to go looking for random items, and I had them make a check to see if they could find it in the chaoticness of the shop, and then they'd bring it up to her and say, "How much is this?" And she'd go, "Well, let me check my notes," and she'd run back to her desk and look at absolutely nothing for a few seconds before coming up with a price, as she was trying to figure out, and the DM was trying to figure out how much they should charge for that item that they wanted, some of which were magic, some weren't. But yeah, so it was a very interesting kind of I set her shop up specifically to mimic her personality, and I feel like that's an important thing.
That was the same thing about the Goblin Maid shop. You know, he was very, very kind of bumbling, but he knew where everything was. He just had to get to it, and ended up breaking lots of things in the process of getting to the shop.
Yeah.
Getting to the items in the shop.
I know this is kind of a little bit off topic, but guess what I called the tavern?
What?
The Twisted Peg Leg.
See, and the name is, you want it to be memorable. In my current D&D campaign, I am creating a world, and in that world there's a town that sits on the ocean, and there's a small general goods shops, and it's called By the Way, but it's spelled B-U-Y, the W-H-E-Y. And so it's a very fun play on words, and the character, it's a halfling town, so the character's also very jovial, and so the party remembers that name because it's, if you come up with unique stuff, then you're rewarded with the players remembering what that unique stuff is.
Yep.
Rather than saying going to the general goods store. I wanted to.
Now there are a few times when you can bring NPCs kind of more marginally into the storyline. This is not so much an adventure situation, but kind of in the storyline of A Tale of Heroes. There's a tavern owner, a giant, and he becomes instrumental in delivering information to the party and relaying information to others. So in that case, he gets actually kind of involved in the storyline, but he's not all that dominant of a force in the story. But he gets a name and a personality as well, and so you can have just the shopkeeper. You can have the guys that are kind of more involved in the story. So I have a question. Okay, so we've been talking a lot about tavern owners, barkeepers, shopkeepers, that kind of thing. People you go and you negotiate with. What about people like palace guards and magistrates in the street and city guardsmen?
Yeah.
They tend to be the mindless, nameless, faceless people that get knifed and left to bleed out in the street while you go and rush into the palace. So how do you deal with that kind of thing? What do you think?
So there's a couple of things that I like to do. First off is mannerisms. Is just fun. you know, making them either always squint or they, even at their guard post, they pace back and forth. You know, biting their fingernails. Stuff like that. Or figuring out how they interact with the world as a whole. You know, figuring out essentially just who they are as a person, you know. Are they good? Are they bad? Are they a guard because they work for the greater good, or is it because of the pay? You know, it's those types of things. Is it the only job that they could get?
Quick interruption. And a shout out to Deadshot. Welcome to the party. Sorry, carry on.
But yeah, so that kind of a thing. And then also figuring out what their goals are. And it doesn't need to be some, you know, insane, I'm trying to undermine the entirety of the city guard, and that's why I'm working there, to work my way up and then to tear it down brick by brick. But like, do they have a sick kid at home and that's why they're working a double shift as a guard? Are they protective of their colleagues? You know, figuring out what they are.
Do they just like money?
That could also be. Are they just trying to earn money because they want money? And then also making sure that they have a flaw.
Yeah, flaws make characters.
They do. Are they quick to anger? Because in that case, you asking stupid questions, the party asking stupid questions, could, you know, why is this any of my fault? Like, or any of my problem? Like, shove off, you know, stuff like that. Are they able to be bribed? If it's a guard, if it's not a guard, you know, anyone can be bribed for information. Are they afraid of something specific? Which, that's fun, especially if you know that the party has something available to that. Obviously the party doesn't know, but if one of your wizards has a spider familiar, and this guy is incredibly afraid of spiders, and he sees them approaching, he might just turn and start walking away. You know?
Or depending on how afraid he is, he might just start running.
Yeah.
Or he might even lunge in to attack it.
Yeah. Something like that. It all comes, you know, round full circle with the guards now attacking the players first.
Yeah, instead of the other way around.
Rather than the murder hobo type thing. But yeah, and I think that those all go for all characters, is making, or all NPCs, is making those general character goals and things of that, you know.
Now, here's the question for us all to think about. What about improv NPCs?
That's a great segue into that, because we've talked here a lot about ways to flesh out characters and make them interesting, but how do you come up with all of this kind of nonsense on the fly? I mean, I can't even come up with a name without flipping open the IKEA catalog. Right?
Names are difficult to come up with on the fly, but first off, that part can be avoided by a simple trick from Matt Mercer, where you have a list of names printed out for each race, each ethnicity, and
just pull one up.
But as for coming up with the rest of this stuff, there's several options. One is you can either have pre-made NPCs that are set up in case you need them, and then just grab one that fits the one that you're seeing, or do play the NPC out for that session and then flesh them out afterwards.
Just kind of wing it and then apply the all the data later.
Right. If you just kind of describe them, how they look, just coming up with a random appearance, coming up with either a voice or a way that they speak, if you aren't comfortable doing voices.
Or a lot of source books, like the Dungeon Master's Guide for Dungeons and Dragons actually has a table where you can roll for characters.
Yeah, now typically I don't like using that in the middle of
Session, but
in the middle of session. But
technically
you could. So
that's actually something, and this is part of the whole reason that I wanted to do this as a topic, is because as we're working on our second edition rules, I want to come up with a whole bunch of Insta NPCs. So let's talk for a moment about some of the things you're talking about. Like, what are the important bits of information that's useful? You mentioned high stats, low stats, motivations,
and look, and then
physical description,
character quirk.
The quirk of the character.
Quirks. Skills, I think, would be very important
if you're fleshing them out. Yeah.
Well, if you're going to have a database or a set of
random characters, those
characters that you can plug into situations, then you'd want to have some of this stuff pre-done, and that's kind of what I'm thinking would be very useful in this section of the book.
Right. I don't personally like the alignment system of like D&D, but something that shows, where they stand on of how they act. Are they good or bad?
What are their motivations?
Yeah, well, and
like
even not
Shopkeeper, is they
their
motivated
motivations, but
we have 10 minutes.
We have a bit longer than that.
Final countdown.
Let's get into.
Yeah, so let's at this point, I think it would be good to jump to
the creature
running people as monsters.
Yeah.
This is when all of your negotiations go south and it's time to draw swords.
Right. One thing is to make sure that they are not
spells.
All nameless faces. If you're running a group of bandits, the group of bandits should not just be a group of bandits. They should each be their own unique individual in the same way that every other NPC is fleshed out. Right. Now, if you're running, dozens and dozens of bandits that come at the players in waves as they try to break into a thieves guild, that's a bit different. But making sure that if it's, 4, 5, 6 bandits, that they at least are somewhat unique.
Highwaymen.
Yeah, so one of the things that I've learned as I've been writing and studying about writing fight scenes is to key into the motivations, and you can do this as you're narrating or game mastering a good fight. So you're not just dealing with initiatives and die rolls, but when you describe the results, when you render the results of die rolls, you can keep this kind of stuff in mind. The motivations, and that can kind of shift. They're trying to get your gold is a good way to start with bandits and these kinds of things. Or maybe it's a traveling merchant caravan. So their goal is to just get on the trail and stay on the trail and not die, so they can sell their goods. Maybe there's, a homeless beggar community that you're dealing with, and they're all trying to beg, you got copper? That kind of thing. So what are their motivations? Also to watch when power shifts in a battle. That's going to be a key moment when you look over a battle and you suddenly realize, oh, the bad guys are winning now. So that's going to impact how they perceive the battle. They're going to become more aggressive. They're going to be more energetic and happier in that sense that now they're winning. The moment when it shifts back and the party starts to become more dominant. Oh, now they've got worry in their faces. Now there's more tension in their reactions. Those kinds of things can make a big difference in the flow of a story.
I agree. One thing to add to that is the fact that while some creatures aren't the most intelligent and will just fight and fight and fight until their corpse is laying on the ground, most humanoids are intelligent enough to realize, oh, we're losing, I need to leave.
Yeah.
And run away.
Even if that's just to get to a better situation 20 minutes from now to reattack. But the point is that we're losing. Let's get out of here.
Yeah. One interesting case of this, it hadn't really gotten to combat yet, but that same Dragonborn on the boat, who ended up being somewhat of an enemy to the party and the group, was staring down at everyone and realizing the tension was building and not liking his chances, threw down what essentially was a ice mist smoke bomb and flew away.
Yeah, I remember that.
So making sure that you realize as the character, oh yeah, this is not looking good, I need to get out of here, is a
well, in that
good
situation that you were game mastering, in fact, there was kind of a cool thing going on as well, because we were attacked by some kind of spirit-like monsters while we were on, like, a ghost ship, basically, while we were on the sea on that particularly very large lake. But that happened at a time right after there was a mutiny going on among the crew. So meanwhile, the party's standing here going like, okay, what's going on? And meanwhile, the captain and his mate are arguing over who's going to really command the ship. And all of a sudden, we get attacked by a spirit ghost ship. Ah!
And
it's fun adding a lot of little elements to something.
And we're just sitting here like, we're in the middle of a mutiny and we're getting attacked by a ghost ship.
So that was, of course, we all kind of had to draw our attention to the ghost ship.
I'm just going to quickly mention what Kroll said. I love that you touched on the flow of battle that way, because you're absolutely right. Different types of creatures or combatants react differently. It's always so boring when they just all fight to the death. Yeah, it can just run the game into the ground, and I am no saint here when it comes to that. I've definitely ran those creatures that are just like, alright, well, here's something else for you to fight. Sometimes it's very difficult, though, because, when combat's only 3 rounds long, the big enemy that they're fighting it's not until, halfway through round 2 that they're like, oh crap, I need to leave, and at that point it's too late, and that can make it kind of tricky and interesting, though, for the DM to figure out, all right, well, how are they going to get out of here?
Well, the creature running away also presents an interesting thing too.
Mhm.
The dynamic shifts
Mhm.
from we gotta get this guy to, oh crap, he's getting away. We gotta stop him from getting away.
I can't remember the specific encounter, but there was that same typical kind of shift as one of my NPCs was about to teleport away. And I remember one of the players reaching out, casting counterspell, and everyone cheering when he did not get away, and he was forced to sit there and take more of this torment. So keep in mind that allowing your players to do things like that and making sure that they're able to have those responses, or when they do get away, the party feels slightly defeated, which is not always a bad thing.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Like we survived, but we didn't accomplish what we needed to.
Sorry. HP slogs can be fun, but it's always a lot of fun when you can shake up combat by changing the goal.
It definitely is.
Mid combat.
That's actually a really good point. I remember a time in the early development of Hero's Tale, the three of us, and I think Tyler may have even been involved in this as well, but we just come up with some quick random characters so that we could play test a combat flow mechanic variation. I don't remember what it was, but I remember I set it up, a whole bunch of Kelnar fighting a whole bunch of humanoids, and as part of that, I was saying, okay, so your job is to steal this orb at the far end of the room. So we kind of made up this space. This was all just done on the fly because it was really a test of the system. But the fact that there was an objective and real motivation other than the fact that we're just going to throw these two people against each other and kill each other made a big difference in the way the combat flowed. And at one point, I remembered you, Brendan, you kind of got this wide-eyed moment where you sort of remembered that the point was to get the orb, not just to kill the Kelnar, which are lizard people, by the way. And
similar to
you saw an
kobolds.
opportunity, you dashed across it, you grabbed the orb and left. And meanwhile, the party seeing oh, well, we've got the orb, let's go. And bailed and left these poor bewildered Kelnar going, hey, where's our targets? And
it's fun.
So the objectives, the motivation makes a big difference in the flow of the game. What about you, Deadshot and Krull? Type something in. You tell us about some of the fun NPCs you've encountered. And I'm not talking about the ones that are big in the story. Just talk about some of the situations where you've had to fight brigands or...
By the way, that was a quote from Matt Mercer.
What was?
When I talked about the goal shifting.
Yeah.
When the guy tries to get away, that was a quote I was paraphrasing from Matt Mercer.
Yeah, I don't think any bandits would like to attack people if they don't have to, because that's where things can go wrong. If the bandits can sneak into the camp, steal the cart and horses of the party, and then get out before anyone notices anything, that's probably a lot more likely that that's what they're going to do.
Right.
We're gonna take your cart.
One thing to really quick, everyone in the chat that is here, make sure to, we're going to do our Q&A thing here in the next couple of minutes, so just either start sending some questions or be ready, because we're going to be wrapping up here fairly soon. Really quick, let's do our shameless plug for the Hero's Tale. I mean, this entire thing is just a shameless plug for the Hero's Tale, but there's the book.
We are hard at work on second edition. Very excited. Go to theheroestale.com and there's a link to where you can buy it.
There are also the Amazon links.
And I am also hard at work on a resource book for it, campaign setting for it.
Very similar to like Humblewood.
Yeah.
It's called Everwild. It's a great setting. We've played in it a few times. Also like to plug my newest help book. This is called Roll Dice, Build Character. It's all about the things that I've learned by raising these two goons as my sons while playing role-playing games, and how wonderful role-playing games has been to our lives. And some great helps us to how to do RPGs as a family.
Yeah. With that, we're gonna just wait a few more seconds for any questions that anyone has. And then we'll probably end it off here in just a minute or two. While that's going on, talking a little bit more about NPCs, just one random thing that I was going to talk about but wasn't sure if we'd have time for, is having monsters being NPCs.
Yeah, we talk about NPCs as monsters. Why not have the monsters be NPCs? Giving them personalities and input.
There was a bullywog, essentially, in my campaign, which is a frog-like character that sold the party insect repellent.
Yep.
Which was fun. Kroll says, my memory is terrible, but one of my favorite NPCs ever was in my first campaign with Edgy. Thank you. I can't remember his name, but he was an herb shop where my PC learned his first level of Blood Hunter. Definitely one of the most memorable for himself. I don't remember his name either, actually, but I do remember him. It was fun. He was when we said when he said herb shop, he did not mean rosemary.
It was time, right?
Exactly.
Time in the bottle.
Yeah, that's what it was. Slowed down time. Or sped it up, depending on what you were buying. Yeah, I remember him. He was a lot of fun.
Okay, you gotta give us the voice then. If he's gonna talk about the voice, you gotta give us the voice.
I don't remember how it goes. I remember doing it, and I remember what it sounded like, but I don't remember how to do it.
Did it sound like Paramore?
No, it was not Paramore, although Paramore was fun. But he was such a fun character to do. And it was also
Kroll, do
fun.
you remember the voice? Describe his voice so maybe that'll remind Brendan.
I remember the voice, I just don't remember how to do the voice. Because back then, I would spend my entire hour-long commute practicing voices in the car. But it was a lot of fun, and it was fun also being able to introduce him to Thad's character, Kroll's character, because he wanted to take a few levels in Blood Hunter, and this was an interesting...
Wait, is that...
Stoner voice with kind of a southern drawl. Man, that would be fun.
As a lion man, it was so much fun.
Is that Thad from...
Yeah.
The Saturday game?
No, not Thad.
Okay. That's why I was confused.
No. But yeah, he was a ton of fun. And it was good giving a way for him to learn to be a blood hunter. So it was fun having him be... I loved Fezzik. Fezzik was the name of his... Yep. It was the name of his character, and he was a goblin. And one of the things was they had asked like how old he was, and he was like, what were you, like 12? Because goblins live to be like 20. or something like that, and they were like, "You're just a child." 10, that's what it was. And they're like, "You're just a child." And he goes, "No, I'm grown," because that's an adult for goblins. So that was a ton of fun.
Such a call.
Hop
Hopper.
hopper, yeah. It was just so much fun. Alrighty. Any questions for us about NPCs? Anyone? Before we hop off?
Anyone?
Bueller.
Anyone?
Yeah, it was nice having that, because he had gone to him as an herb dealer, you know, but ended up learning the blood magic from, or blood hunter. It's not magic per se most of the time, but the blood hunter, you know, ideologies from him. It was fun having that be a thing that happened with that. Alrighty. We're probably going to sign off here.
Cool.
Gonna give it like 30 more seconds. But
Thanks to Brendan and Jake for a great conversation.
yeah, and thanks for you as well.
Thanks for the visitors. Tell your friends about us and catch us up on YouTube too.
This is gonna go live on, is it the Hero's Tale THT? Yes, it is.
Right.
Yes.
The Hero's Tale THT on YouTube. This will be going up hopefully by the end of the day. Shouldn't take too long. But we hope to see all of you there. And thanks for watching.
Please like and subscribe.
Yeah, if you're watching this on YouTube, it's free. You know? Alright, thanks for watching, everyone.
And give us a follow.
Yep.
Bye-bye.
Bye.